And for the ingredients, I will be using a smart button. Most of my devices are by Aqara. I'll also be using a presence sensor. You can also use a motion sensor. And I'll be using smart bulbs by Sengled. I've been using the Sengled bulbs since they were planting trees for each bulb you purchased. I'll also be using the Habitat Hub to mix all the ingredients together to make a nice dish. The recipe today is quite simple. We'll add the devices into Habitat, and then we'll create the rules inside of Habitat. And then once you're all done with that, you get to enjoy. With Habitat, we'll be clicking on the Apps button, and we'll be using Rule Machine. Once in Rule Machine, you'll open an app, you'll create a new rule, and this rule we will call the Rule Pauser, because we are going to be pausing the rules with our button. Select your trigger event, we'll create a new trigger, and we'll create it with the button. We'll pick the Aqara button, which happens to be on Hub 2. Again, we'll talk about Hub Mesh later. You are going to select button number 1, and we're going to select when it is double tapped. And then you'll hit Done with Trigger Event, and Done with Trigger Events once more. The next thing that we're going to do is select an action to run. And with this action, we will click the green button, create a new action. The type of action that we're going to add is the pause rules action. And once that is chosen, you will then select which action to use, and we are going to choose the pause resume rules. There's a little tick button where you can click to either pause or resume the rule. We are going to pause the rule. You can select which rule type to use. We are going to be using Rule Machine instead of Basic Rule. And then pause the rules. We are going to pause our living room lights or our living room app. And there's 2 of them for the 2 different times that I have programmed. We'll then click Done with Actions, and you can see that it says Pause Rules, Living Room Lights, 11 to 6:29 and 6:30 to 10:59. So those are the 2 rules that will be paused with the push of the button. And that is it. You are complete. And you can see that I have the trigger and the actions complete, and we can hit Done. So there we have the rule pauser. I would like to create another rule that will unpause the rules. And so we'll go back into Rule Machine. We'll create the new rule. We're going to name this the rule unpauser. So we'll just stick a little UN in front of pauser. Select trigger events. It's going to be the same trigger where we're going to be using our Aqara button. So you click Select Trigger Event, Create New Trigger Event, and we are going to choose Button. Once the button is chosen, which is the Aqara button, instead of double tapped, we will check on Held. And that will be what we have for our trigger. When that button is held, something will happen. So we will create a new action, and the new action type is going to be to pause rules. We're going to select which action to take, and that is going to be the pause resume rules action. And we will check that little tick so it moves over to resume instead of pause, so we can resume our rules. We'll use Rule Machine, and then we'll go back down to our living room rules. And now that we have this set, when the button is held, it will resume the rule. But it's also nice to be able to know that that rule is resumed. And so what I would like to do is to have it do some action with our dimming of the lights. And so we are going to take our living room lights, and we are going to dim them and raise the brightness up and dim them again, so that way we know the rule worked. So actually for this first I'm going to set the level to 100. So they come on at a 100% brightness. And I'm going to click done with this action. I will create another new action. And with this action, I'm going to set the dimmer. And I'm going to set the dimmer to that same living room light bulbs, all three of them, to a level of 0. So that way they will brighten to 100 and they will dim to 0. And I'm going to repeat the step one more time, setting the dimmer bulbs to a 100% level. So they will brighten, they will dim to 0, and then brighten one more time. And this will allow me to be able to tell if that hold of the button, which should last about 3 seconds, actually resume the rules. And I'll know that if the lights brighten to 100, dim to 0, and then brighten to 100 again. Once that is complete, I'll hit done, and now all of my rules are set. Please don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.